You're better than her ex-boyfriend.
That's what I heard.
Try to time it so that I screw you up, and this time you had us live.
All right, we're live right now. Nobody can see us.
Fantastic.
Nobody can see us, but we're all getting a good kick out of that because I forgot to mute our microphones.
Classic.
So everybody's all right. We'll be on in just a second, Captain.
Command codes verified. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
So anyway, you are better than her ex-boyfriend. I mean, just to make it clear.
It would seem as though that is the case. Yes, it would seem as though that is
Just
the
to
case.
make that 100% clear.
Yes, thank you.
You show up on time, you do your job, and you get out. That's rare.
That's my goal. Well, hello, captains, and welcome to the live broadcast recording of episode 469 of Priority 1, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I hope that you guys will enjoy our new Twitch overlay, something that we purchased to help, maybe spruce it up a little bit, spruce up the live streams, and make it a little more visually entertaining for you all. If you hate it, let me know. I'll probably ignore it. I'm kidding. But we've got the chat still, now the chat has its own space. We have a space for our faces.
But I liked pointing out the relevant chat messages below me.
Oh, too bad, so sad. You're gonna have to switch with Kat somehow on the camera number, so you can be like this. And the chat here says...
We can still do the Brady Bunch thing. Wait, no,
That's
this
true.
way.
Just say it goes the other way. Chat.
Darn it. Where it's like this. It'd be like this. Right? Anywho, so hopefully you all enjoy it. All right. Well, I'm sure that this is going to be a lively discussion with the new trailer to Star Trek Lower Decks out there. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in. But before we do, captains, if you have not already, make sure to hit the like button. Hit the important one is share. Tell all your friends that we're about to run down the major headlines of Star Trek news for this week, and they should listen to our rantings. So that's always helpful. Hello, Zeph. It's good having you. Good having you. All right. I should have hit record in Zoom, but I did not. All right. So I'm going to hit the big red button for intro in 3, 2, 1. This is Elio, intro, sync 1.
This is Cat, intro, sync 2.
This is Tony, intro, sync 3.
This is Skiffy, intro, sync 4.
Intro in 3, 2. This week on episode 469 of Priority 1, we trek out what's coming to Comic-Con at home, and your thoughts, and our thoughts on the Lower Decks trailer. In Star Trek Gaming, we share with you which game developers are taking action for a more equitable future, and we relive several old favorites, like Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Hello, Captains. You're listening to episode 469 of Priority 1. Yeah, we got a lot of mouth noise. Hello, Captains. You're listening to episode 469 of Priority 1, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, your weekly recap and review of all the major news happening in the Star Trek Multiverse. This episode was recorded live on Tuesday, July 14th, 2020, and available for download or streaming on Friday, July 17th at PriorityOnePodcast.com. I'm Elio.
I'm Cat.
I'm Tony.
And back from his adventures on Risa is our chief audio engineer, Skiffy.
Hello. Do you want me to say more?
No, Tony, no banter.
It's good radio. I'm waving.
Hi, Tony.
Is this the part where we banter?
Hi, Elijah.
Are we doing
no
banter again this week?
No banter,
banter.
no banter.
You said there was
Wait,
going to be banter.
Did Tony not
Yeah,
say
we're
I'm
supposed
Tony?
to talk about.
Yes, I said I'm Tony.
Oh, okay.
I was there.
So
It's
we're
in
there
the
all
script. It's in the
Yeah,
script.
that's why I said it. But what's not in the script is more banter. I thought we were going to do banter.
No banter. We'll skip the banter this week.
Okay.
Oh wait, I'll pick this one up. Hi guys.
Thanks.
Before we jump into the news, we want to invite you in. Oh, sorry. Before we jump into the news, we want to invite you to join in on the weekly conversations, whether via social media platforms like Facebook.com whether via social media platforms like Facebook.com /Priority One Podcast, on Twitter or Instagram at Priority One Pod, or by email to incoming@PriorityOnePodcast.com.
Captains, this is that part of the show where I try to push you to become a patron over at patreon.com. And that's because running a podcast isn't entirely cheap or inexpensive, at least not the way we do it, because we value the production values that our dedicated and talented group of volunteers contribute each and every week. So, if you have the extra funds to spend each month, we encourage you to visit us over at patreon.com /Priority One and consider becoming a loyal supporter of the show. Now, we don't just take your money. We do our best to incentivize contributions. For instance, we have a totally separate show called After Hours. Right now, we're talking about Star Trek the Animated Series and doing a review of those episodes. We also have a Discord channel dedicated to our admirals from Patreon. So if you'd like to converse with us throughout the week and talk about things like the latest trailer from Lower Decks, consider becoming a patron. Again, that's patreon.com /Priority One Pod. Links, of course, will be in the show notes.
Now let's check out the latest news from the Star Trek Multiverse.
All right, everybody hit stop. Oops. I hit the wrong button.
Tracy Lee Coco! She's so awesome.
I think I turned off my little... All right. I lose the window? No.
Oh.
Okay. Cool. All right. That's right. Tracy. Yeah, Tracy needs to do a guest appearance on Lower Decks.
Oh, that would be awesome. I bet she'd be.
Well, that one green character took her haircut, so maybe she's already there. The short haircut with the green.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta spell it out. I gotta need to paint the radio word picture.
I mean, I envisioned her when you said that, and I was like, oh my god, it is. I forget
I didn't
her
assign
name.
these. Did everybody read the articles? Everybody do their homework?
Yes, Daddy.
All right.
Do my homework.
Making sure. I will actually.
Oh, crap.
I'm gonna read this. Then Cat can read this. Oh. Did I assign this one to you?
I would like to make good radio while Elio's typing,
All right.
Yeah, I know. I feel like.
but now
we're
he's done
failing.
typing, so I'm off the hook,
I am done typing. You are off the
which
hook.
is fantastic.
Isn't
Just after the nick of time. That's when I come in.
it? Just after.
Just after.
Post nick of time. All right, I'm going to hit the big red button for Trek It Out in 3, 2, 1. This is Elio. Trek It Out, sync 1.
This is Cat. Trek It Out, sync 2.
This is Tony. Elio's 2 for 2, sync 3.
This is Skivvy. Check it out. Sync 4.
Trek It Out in 3, 2. As far as birthdays go, 80 is an incredible milestone. And when you're Sir Patrick Stewart, everyone wants to recognize your achievements. On June 13th, Sir Patrick celebrated his 80th birthday, and friends, fans, and news outlets did their very best to honor the veteran actor. The Guardian, for instance, interviewed several of Sir Pat Stew's friends and colleagues to share some of their most memorable moments with the actor. For instance, David Tennant had this to say, quote, "He's fit as a fiddle and so strapping. How many 80-year-olds are the lead in their own science fiction series? There's nothing of the old man about him. He's very virile. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that." End quote. Sir Ian McKellen told The Guardian, quote, 80 is, of course, a milestone, but he has had so many remarkable achievements in his career journey from Huddersfield to Stratford to the West End, Hollywood to Broadway and beyond. I'm sure there will be no silly talk about retirement. End quote. And of course, many of his co-stars from TNG joined him for a celebration and even shared a picture of them together. Fortunately, they were all wearing their masks and maintaining social distancing.
That was
Setting a
really
good
cute.
example.
That was a really cute picture. Everybody
Outside,
standing around.
at least a meter apart, masks up.
Yeah, the
And they didn't
picture
have
of,
Jonathan Frakes with them because he would have screwed it up because he would have been like all touchy-feely and huggy and stuff.
the picture of them around their pool is actually very adorable. They're all, they're staying a few feet apart from each other, but they're still celebrating together. It's delightful. Although Brent looks really upset.
He's just grumpy because they don't get together for his birthday.
Are you showing the picture? Oh, yeah, there it is. Nice. That's awesome.
Oops.
All
All
right.
moving on.
On July 9th, Den of Geeks' Don Kay spoke with Robert Sallin, producer on the 1982 film Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. According to Kay, during an interview about the film, Sallin hinted that he's currently in the process of developing a script for a new Star Trek film. Quote, "I don't have it completely written, but I have a lot of it written. I have a concept for another Star Trek feature that I've had discussions with Paramount about, at least on the phone. This one, I guarantee you, is unlike anything that has been done in Star Trek, and it will be part of the canon, but they, the studio, don't want to talk about it until they see what Noah Hawley does." End quote. That sounds a little fishy.
I would file this under rumors and gossip. I
I'm
feel like
really he said that? I don't know.
at this point, I just feel like everybody under the sun is writing something for a future Star Trek film. I just don't know. It just feels weird.
Yeah.
Well,
Tony,
let's be honest.
According to
Trek is
Memory
old.
Alpha, he's 89 years old, so he better hurry up.
Skippy, what'd you say?
Well, let's be honest. I mean, you can write a script for anything and adapt it into a Star Trek film. Star Trek's so all-encompassing in terms of genres and tones. And
Well, I mean, Nick Myers combined a submarine film and a Sherlock Holmes film and turned into Star Trek 2, so there you go.
there you go.
True.
That's it.
I don't know. I've just never heard of Robert Salen. I mean, not to say that I should or that I know every person who's ever worked on Star Trek before, but this just feels like one of those. Yeah, file this under rumors and gossip. Who else is going to be writing a potential script for the next film?
Everybody's got one.
It could be you.
Unlike anything that's ever been done before.
Well, the pandemic may have put a damper on most of our plans this year, including the cancellation or rescheduling or reimagining of convention events. San Diego Comic-Con, for instance, has shifted their presentations to an online format, and Star Trek will be participating in several ways. Generally, the event takes place Wednesday, July 22nd to... Generally, the event will take place between Wednesday, July 22nd.
Ooh, you
Didn't sound
slowed
right
down.
either. Generally, the event will take place between Wednesday, July 22nd and Sunday, July 26th. However, you don't have to stay glued to your computer all 3 days for the Star Trek studded events. Star Trek studded events?
Yeah, it was more of a play on words like star-studded, but Star Trek-studded.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'll do that.
It's always funnier when you explain it.
It's always funnier when you explain a joke. We've learned that over at the other show. Usually we take 20 or 30 minutes per pun that Shiv writes. It works out pretty well. However, you don't have to stay glued to your computer all 3 days for the Star Trek studded events. Thursday, July 23rd at 10 Pacific time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. I about said 10 a.m. p.m., which would not have worked. Thursday, July 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific, the Star Trek Universe virtual panel will feature discussions with executive producer Alex Kurtzman and... Are they executive producers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's about 17
I
executive
know. I'm
producers on
like,
that show.
odds
so.
are likely.
I'd probably be safe calling them that. Thursday, July 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific, the Star Trek Universe virtual panel will feature discussions with executive producers Alex Kurtzman and Heather Caden, followed by a virtual table read of Star Trek Discovery's episode Such Sweet Sorrow Part 2, with many of the episode's featured actors. Later, Mike McMahon takes the virtual stage to discuss the new animated comedy series Star Trek Lower Decks. McMahon will be joined by several of the voice actors from the series, including Tawny Newsome, Jack Quaid, and more. It all wraps with a Star Trek Picard panel that includes Sir Patrick Stewart himself, along with fan favorites like Jonathan Frakes, Jonathan Del Arco, Marina Sirtis, and Jerry Ryan, among many of the other key actors from the series. For a full list of Comic-Con at-home events, be sure to check out the show notes.
I'm slightly confused about what is going on because this seems very... What?
You moved.
What do you mean I moved?
It's
I was over here reading, and I turned back, and Skiffy looks like you now, and you look like Skiffy. I'm
It's like musical picture-in-picture.
Oh, it didn't change for me. It didn't change for me. I'm confused about the length of this panel because on the website it seems to be about an hour or so long, but this is a lot of stuff. Like, how is it just
A table read should take an hour.
I know, right? If they're doing the entire episode, but they don't specify. I don't know if they're going to be doing scenes.
Well, hang on. You don't have the effects shots. You don't have the silent whatevers. I mean, someone's going to read, and then somebody goes to the elevator, and then, but you won't see the turbo lift ride or whatever. So there'll be some breaks. They can probably get it done, but yeah, there's a lot here.
Yeah, there's a lot there that I can't imagine that they're going to be able to just do in an hour because it's scheduled on San Diego Comic-Con's website as just an hour, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So
Here's the thing: being online only, can they go long and not interfere with other events?
Well, that's the thing is that if you go to the schedule, they are going to interfere with other events, but I guess they don't care because of that because they're online.
Can you just buy? Is it like event by event,
No,
or
it's
do you have
free.
to buy like a? Oh,
It's all
Well,
free
how-
as far as I see.
Oh, well, I'll watch that.
And this sounds to me like it's pre-recorded. It sounds to me like they've already got like some of the raw in the can, or they will have it in the can, and they'll just edit it together so it only takes an hour.
Yeah, that also makes sense.
Yeah. So they probably invited CBS Viacom to give us an hour of footage, and then we'll go from there.
Now, here's what I would love to see being announced at Comic-Con, right? Is a deeper discussion into the future incarnations of Star Trek, specifically Strange New Worlds, right? Yeah, we got teased, but Comic-Con is the place to drop bombs, right? I have a feeling that they were robbed of whatever bomb they had planned with the Lower Decks trailer. We'll get to that later, but I think, for instance, of actors who are going to be on this panel who could also potentially be in future episodes of Trek, right, with Strange New Worlds. In Strange New Worlds, we stay in this time era, this year of Discovery, while the crew of Discovery goes off into the future. I think it would be great to see some of those actors who might have been let go after Discovery come back for Strange New Worlds. I think of Mary Chieffo. She's the first person I think of. Why wouldn't Chancellor Laurel be engaged in some sort of plot along with Christopher Pike?
Or against him.
Or against him, right.
More likely.
Or parallel her own storyline, maybe. Something's going on in the Klingon world.
And they can bring back Ash too.
Shazad
Who else got left behind?
Yeah.
Anybody else get left
Jason
behind?
Jason Isaacs as
Sure,
some form
Mirror.
of Lorca. Yes. So yeah, I think that
Cat's ready for that.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know how this is going to settle, but I would rather them cancel whatever Section 31 production they had and put that money into Strange New Worlds. Have those actors that were slated to be there, which we had met in Discovery, play a role somehow in the plot for Strange New Worlds.
Sounds good to me. I mean, of course, they'll probably wind up doing is the CW route, or is it that does all the Arrow and Flash
CW,
and all those?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what it'll end up being. They'll have crossover events and stuff like that too. I mean,
Well, it's
they
interesting.
Well, they did in Deep Space Nine and TNG.
super
very
rarely
briefly.
though.
I know, but I mean, if they did it rarely here, it'd be okay.
But you bring up a good point, Tony, and we'll talk about that a little more after this next headline.
Oh, is that my cue?
Yeah.
Well, if you were up early and perusing social media on Sunday, July 12th, your feed may have been flooded with tweets about a leaked trailer for the new animated series Star Trek Lower Decks. But before long, Star Trek's official websites and social media channels went ahead and just officially released it to the masses. The 2-minute and 15-second video takes us on a wild ride aboard the USS Cerritos and provides a sneak peek of the show's overall tone. We also get a solid peek into the types of characters we'll be following, like Jack Quaid's Ensign Boimler and Tawny Newsom's Ensign Mariner.
I have to ask. Spanish is not my native language, but is a churrito a cross between a Cheerio and a Dorito? I'm
No,
confused
it's not
about
the
this.
it's not the Churritos. It's the Cerritos. Cerritos.
Well, how come
CER.
there's-
Yeah. It's
Oh,
I don't
should I
know.
do it again?
I had to
Yeah,
Google it because I
maybe.
thought, maybe I was wrong, but it's Cerritos because I was making the joke that it's like Cerritos Auto Square.
I always thought
A
it sounds to
well-known-
me like chudritos.
No, it's Cerritos.
I know.
Oh, okay. Well, let me
Yeah.
do that
I
again.
can still make that joke, and I will.
The 2-minute and 15-second video takes us on a wild ride aboard the USS Cerritos and provides a sneak peek into the show's overall tone. We also get a solid peek into the types of characters we'll be following, like Jack Quaid's Ensign Boimler and Tawny Newsom's Ensign Mariner.
Now, Spanish is not my native language, but is the Cerritos a cross between cereal and Doritos? I'm confused about this.
Of that, I am not sure.
Well, okay.
He'll have to Google. He'll have to Google translate that for you later.
Yeah,
I'll try.
have to
I'll
work
try.
on that.
Yes, thank you. Gosh.
If you eat it with a spoon, though, at least you don't get your fingers all orange.
Covered in cheese powder. That yes, an excellent
It's a
point.
bonus. Maybe they should make that.
I'm taking this idea. I'm gonna get a trademark fight with Paramount.
So, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen the trailer. What are your initial thoughts on it? Kat, why don't you go first?
It's a cartoon. I mean, they're just showing you that one. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be kind of silly, funny for everybody, but I would suspect they'd have some interesting adventures at least. I'll watch it. I don't know.
There's no doubt that the tone of this is a real departure from what we're accustomed to with Star Trek, especially what we've seen throughout the years, except for the delightful Tribbles commercial in the After Trek series. And there have been, the Twitter and the social media response to this is has been the old familiar, this isn't Star Trek. This isn't my Star Trek. This isn't Star Trek in general. What is this? Blah, blah, blah. But I want to pose this question to you. Yes, we know that Gene Roddenberry had a very specific theme when he wrote a Star Trek episode, right? That Star Trek has always been ingrained with concepts of battling towards social justice and equality. But Star Trek has not been without its very corny and very absurd episodes, right? From the original series to Deep Space Nine to TNG, you name it, each series has had their ridiculous episodes. But I don't know that the problem is, I don't know that we should be asking anymore or suggesting that this isn't Trek. Because what I'm noticing now is that they really are throwing everything at the wall and figuring out what sticks.
I don't know.
And well, let me finish my thought here, because I'm starting to think that these tonal shifts in Star Trek storytelling might actually be hurting the franchise. And I compare it to something like Star Wars or Marvel, whose franchise and all the iterations of that franchise has kind of kept a tone, as there's almost like a Bible that goes along with each development of production, right? Even at its worst, Star Wars Christmas special still stuck to very familiar tones and themes that we saw from the films, and then you go down.
There was only one film at that point. There was only the one.
I mean,
they made that up as they went along.
Well, yeah, but now look at The Mandalorian. But
it was
the Clone
episode
Wars.
4.
And so my point really is that, is it hurting Star Trek to have such a broad stroke of tone and themes without first reestablishing what we can expect from a Star Trek series?
100% no.
I'm like, it may do that. It's only the preview. It's 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, I want to take your
thing.
I want to take your comparison to Marvel, because what Marvel has done, yes, if you break down the plot points in their films, they're all basically the same. You've got the hero buildup, you've got a sky beam that they've got to take down, you've got the villain that's creating the sky beam, and they eventually win in the end. But the tone of each of their films is very different. Like Doctor Strange is a wildly different tonal film and style than Thor Ragnarok, which was also a wild departure in tone and style from like the original Iron Man or Captain America.
But it was still familiar, though. It was still something that didn't seem out of left field. Now, mind you, I liked the trailer. I think this is actually going to be really fun, and I'm going to get a bunch of laughs out of it. I don't hate it. I'm not saying, oh, this isn't Star Trek. But what it got me thinking about was, this is really out of left field, right? This is just an out of left field approach to how Star Trek has been delivered for the over 50 years. And
You mean it's a new, fresh take and breaks the formula and takes the familiar and makes it seem unfamiliar, and gives you a different perspective on a franchise that's been around for 60 years, and who has been recently criticized for taking itself too seriously?
Well, I also want to go back to superheroes because you've got animated series of superhero franchises that are wildly different, but still, adored by many people.
I think that this gets right back to people understand something when they can laugh at it, right? It's clear someone understands something if they can make jokes about it, and it's even clearer they understand something when they can make jokes about it, and people aren't offended by it. Like, they know where the line is and they don't cross it. I got a real Orville vibe on this thing.
Oh, so did I. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Orville vibe I want to describe to you is Seth MacFarlane sold it as a comedy, and on all the trailers and stuff, they put in all the stupid jokes they made. But then when you actually watch the Orville, it's kind of a TNG sequel. It felt more like a science fiction show that had the occasional joke in it, rather than a whole bunch of jokes with some science fiction thrown in.
Well, that's what I'm holding on to. I'm holding on to Mike McMahon's writing, right? Because he worked on Rick and Morty, and Rick and Morty is obviously a comedy show, a comedy cartoon show for adults, but it really grapples with some very existential themes and motifs. I mean, just it gets deep in some episodes. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to Lower Decks, but I'm wondering if for the Star Trek franchise itself, right? What if, for instance, if they wanted to move towards the comedic, absurdist approach to delivering new Star Trek, I'm wondering if maybe an animated series of the unaired season 8 of TNG might have been a softer approach, right? We would have gotten all the voice actors back from TNG, and it'd be a much more fun adventure. What do you think?
They'd be parodying themselves.
Why not?
That works on Robot Chicken for like an episode or two, like for a few minutes in a sketch at a time. I don't think you can make a series of that. I'm looking forward to this. I think that they've got the right idea and the right attitude. They're looking at Star Trek from a different way. It's like, we reported a few months ago or whatever that it's like somebody has to clean up the holodeck. Well, sure enough, in the trailer they gave her the job of cleaning out the holodeck. So I mean,
this answers the question of what do they do in the week before? Yeah, in the week between Saturdays or between release days. Yeah,
right, between the shows. What happens on the ship between the shows? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no,
I too am very much looking forward to this. I think it's of the new series of Trek we've got, I'm the most excited for this. I didn't like Discovery. I am on the fence on Picard overall. We'll see what they do in season 2. But this I am absolutely looking forward to. It looks amazing. I hope it's funny. I hope it's a comedy. I hope they don't do the same thing the Orville did. Mind you, the caveat there is I haven't actually seen the Orville. I stopped watching halfway through their pilot episode and never turned back because I had seen all the jokes already, and it was too, I didn't like it.
I'm going to point out, and I just pushed it out to everybody on the live stream, it may be worth picking up a copy of Mike McMahon's Warped, an engaging guide to the never-aired 8th season of Star Trek The Next Generation. I think that we will get a good look into his writing style and how he treats Star Trek with reverence, a comedic reverence.
This episode is not sponsored by Amazon or Audible.
It is not.
But it could be. Contact us for more information.
I just bought it. I bought it earlier today, and I started reading. I read the first 2 episodes that he outlines. It's absurd. It's definitely absurd, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that in Lower Decks. And I laughed at the trailer, and I'm looking forward to it. August 6th is when it airs on CBS All Access. I just think we all need to kind of lay off this isn't Trek anymore, because from what we've seen the last 2 years, there is no definition of Star Trek anymore.
That fact saddens me greatly, actually.
Captains, before we move on, we do need to take a moment and remember the life of Grant Imahara, who passed away suddenly on June 13th. Imahara, who is best known for his role on Mythbusters and later portrayed Hikaru Sulu in Star Trek Continues. He was only 49 years old.
Yeah, sad.
Tony, did you want to?
Oh, sure. I interacted with him one time at a convention, and we bonded over our monster maroons. I actually didn't recognize him. I'd never watched Mythbusters. I didn't know who he was. But he came up to our table, and he was wearing his monster maroon, and he was the spitting image of Sulu, of course, obviously, and because he had the captain's braid on, and he had the whole thing. I'm like, hey, this is great, Captain Sulu. You got it. And he's like, hey, I like your uniform too. And I'm like, yeah. So we had a moment, and all the stuff that I see on Twitter and stuff, he was just so easygoing. Like, he was a Hollywood kind of a guy, and he, did that stuff. But I didn't know that. I thought he was just another fan, and we just stood and talked for a minute. And I think Elio came up to me later and went, "Hey man, that was Grant Imahara." And I'm like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's cool." But yeah, just that brief interaction. He was just a really nice, friendly guy, and we just bonded over Star Trek uniforms.
Kat, why don't you sweep us out?
Well, Captains, that's all the news we have to check out this week. Now let's find out what happened in the world of Star Trek gaming.
Everybody hit stop. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Even the in the trailer, the corridor looks like the corridor from the Orville more than it does the Starfleet corridor.
I'm telling you that my view on this is that they sold it as a Star Trek show and as a sort of a comedy Star Trek show, and they saw how the Orville went not comedy, more towards drama like this. And they're going, well, we're going to aim it just a little bit back more towards the comedy. Orville's filling this niche over here. Well, we're going to slide it a little bit over this way. So Orville wound up being, we're going to get some comedy in your Star Trek. And this is going to be, we're going to get some Star Trek in your comedy. So I think they're going to occupy that piece of the spectrum.
It looks really funny. I quite enjoyed. You're doing a captain's log?
They told us to practice. We're so getting fired. Am I promotable?
I am looking forward to it. There was that little alien in the jar that was screaming. It looked like it was screaming at them. I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff. It's just Star Trek. The science fiction genre lends itself to this, obviously, for this kind of humor with aliens and whatnot. Yeah, they better. You know what they? Oh man, I forgot to record this. But they better make Dr. Datan some kind of Dr. Ta'ana,
the cat doctor.
Vacation, yeah. That character better be a distant cousin of Squanchy or something, and we better bump into Rick and Morty in space. I really, really want that. If we're gonna go this, if we're gonna go this far, if we're gonna go this absurd, man, just own it. And The Simpsons had Rick and Morty, right? And Family Guy brought in The Simpsons and vice versa.
Simpsons did it.
Yeah, Simpsons did it. I would love to see an episode. It doesn't have to be a full episode. It's just they're flying through space, and all of a sudden Rick's ship bumps into the Cerritos or something, and you're gonna have to pay for the scratch on that. Something like that.
I'm gonna do you a favor, Skiffy. You ready? Get your drink. When I did the Overture series, there you go, Skiffy. One of the most common complaints that I got was, you're not taking this seriously. You're way too irreverent. Star Trek is never like this. Because I put in a lot of humor in it. I put people making jokes and insulting each other, and treating each other like an office or a family would, right? There are people that had worked together for a long time, and they sort of knew where each other's buttons were, and but that complaint was frequent. And that's why I think that I'm really receptive to this show, because it's these people are giving each other crap, and they're all junior officers, and they got to deal with the worst parts of working on a starship together. So that's why I think that this show is really going to appeal to me and people like me.
All right, you guys ready for gaming news?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Tony, do you mind reading this opening?
Yeah, I can do it.
All right, I'm gonna hit the big red button in 3, 2, 1. This is Elio Star Trek Online News. Damn it. Star Trek News.
Okay, so you got the Elio. The Elio's right. It's the other part that you're having trouble. It's not sliding off the tongue yet.
Star Trek Gaming News, Sync 1.
This is Kat, Star Trek Gaming News, Sync 2.
This is Tony, Star Trek Gaming News, Sync 3.
This is Skivvy, Star Trek Gaming News, Sync 4.
Gaming News in 3, 2.
We're still holding our coverage of updates from Star Trek Online, but thought it prudent to share with you a list of other game developers who have stepped up to support social justice, equality, and the Black Lives Matter.
Slow down today, man.
And the Black Lives Matter movement. Blizzard has donated to several organizations. Bungie has designed items to sell with all the proceeds going towards Equal Justice Initiative. Niantic, who publishes Pokemon Go, is donating $5 million to Black Gaming and Augmented Reality. Niantic, who publishes Pokemon Go, is donating $5 million to Black gaming and augmented reality creators that can live on in the Niantic platform and U.S. nonprofit organizations that are helping local communities rebuild. EA is donating $1 million to the Equal Justice Initiative and the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund and other organizations. And finally, Ubisoft is making a $100,000 donation. That was too fast. And finally, Ubisoft is making a $100,000 donation to the NAACP. This is just but a short list of game developers and companies who have taken measurable actions to support social justice and equality. GameSpot has a very extensive list, and the link will be in the show notes.
You know, we had a brief conversation about this last week during After Hours with Dr. Robert Hurt. And one thing that seemed to have caught him off guard was the amount of racist nonsense we received for our 3-day logout. I can't even call it a boycott, because boycott would really means deleting your account. And I was just reading a Washington Post article about gaming communities and how, especially recently, there seems to be an uptick in negative, racist, bigoted, homophobic, transphobic, just horrible, horrible, horrible conduct from players in zone chat, on the subreddits, and Star Trek Online is no exception to this. As a matter of fact, it happens quite often, and we joke, and we've said in passing how, we don't even, I don't even have zone chat open anymore. It's just the fleet chat. It's just this. But for incoming players that show up on Earth Space Talk, to see somebody walking around with a tag above their head that says something about snowflakes or something racist or something, or saying something in the zone chat that is offensive, doesn't help instill a welcoming invitation to continue to play the game, right? So
not at all. I mean, I never really played games before Star Trek Online, and when I read zone chat, I'm just like, oh my god,
right?
People are, what is wrong with you? That's why I never wanted to be on voice chat, and like even chatting people in game was terrifying.
And
because you never knew who you're going to run into. Right?
Exactly. I mean, it could be any. Yeah, you just don't. I'm stay away from all those crazy people.
Yeah, if there's a 1% chance of running into somebody like that, you just choose not to participate, because even a 1% chance is too much.
Yeah, and for women too. I mean, it's especially.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's terrible for you. Yeah.
Not that they would know, but whatever.
Well, as soon as you open your mouth on voice chat, they would know.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one of the ongoing rebuttals to this from gaming companies is, we don't have the technology's not there, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. But you know what would make a really big statement to those racists out there? Is if you committed to actionable, measurable endeavors to contribute to social justice and equality. That would go a long way. That would send a message to those people in the community who are only brave enough to say those things because they're safe in their parents' basement or locked away in their gaming room, taking action, measurable action, is going to shut them up. And if they're afraid of losing those players, hey, guess what? Did you want them anyway?
You can't measure what you don't have, and the argument would be you need to create that environment where people aren't worried about the 1% being that guy that pops off in the TFO or whatever. Get those people so that they don't think they're going to get the benefit of the doubt from moderation. If you make this statement and do something where people understand this, we are predisposed to think this way. We're predisposed to be on the side of the social justice stuff. Then they know that the line has moved back. They will not put toes over the line anymore because they know that the company, the actual real world organization, doesn't tolerate that. And if it gets escalated to a customer service type situation or a report, they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Oh, it was a one-time thing. Oh, it was the first offense. Oh, was it? How many can you interpret it that way? Does it have to be interpreted in the mean way? It sends the signal. And that prevents people from trying to put that foot over the line.
It just, silence really does speak volumes. And, it just really boils down to the fact that a company that is built on and relies on the community to continue to purchase items, continue to log in, it astounds me that they're not willing to make a statement against that type of behavior and a statement towards lifting up the voices of people who are marginalized and who are afraid to engage with other people in community forums because of
what if they find out I'm black? What if they find out I'm a woman?
Right. Mm-hmm. Those are legit fears, and gaming companies, Cryptic included, would go a long way for companies like Cryptic Studios to make a statement to say, look, we may not have the tools to block you immediately and to stop this from happening, but this is our statement. This is our stance. This is how we feel. And when it happens, we're going to stop it. But when you don't make a statement, all you're doing is empowering these little shitheads behind their keyboards to just feel emboldened to do it.
You get the last word. That was good.
That was it.
You want to keep going?
No, I'm done. Oh, yeah. We can move on to the next thing.
Okay. And another gaming news. After last week's flashback to Dozaria, Star Trek Timelines returns to the future, present, whatever, temporal thing, with Lightbringers. The Galaxy-type event runs from this Thursday, July 16th to Monday, July 20th for the Romulan Star Empire Federation and Ferengi Traditionalist factions, with 5-star Mother L'Rell as the ranked reward crew member. Event crew granting high bonuses for Lightbringers include last week's ranked reward 5-star Cayman?
Mm-hmm.
Cayman? Okay. Event crew granting high bonuses for Lightbringers include last week's ranked reward 5-star Cayman, the new 4-star Traveler Wesley, and the returning 4-star Commander Tomahawk. Other Picard and Wesley variants will grant small bonuses.
Kat, why don't you read this next one?
Well, that didn't take long. On July 10th, Star Trek Timelines developer Wicked Realms announced it was removing its controversial offer wall feature from the iOS app indefinitely. Ostensibly, this is because due to Apple guidelines, the offers that can be presented on iOS are too limited.
Can you take it from the top of the sentence?
Yeah, but I...
And should it be iOS?
Yeah,
it should be iOS, yes.
iOS.
Okay, fine.
Oh, wait, sorry. I didn't do that right. Actually, it's pronounced iOS.
You.
Yes, actually.
That's better.
That's much better.
better.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, I feel like I'm at the office. Okay. Well, that didn't take long. On July 10th, Star Trek Timelines developer Wicked Realms announced it was removing its controversial offer wall feature from the iOS app indefinitely. Ostensibly, this is because due to Apple guidelines, the offers that can be presented on iOS are too limited to be of interest. Third-party developers taking issue with Apple's App Store constraints is certainly nothing new, and it's significant that the wall's alive and well on the game's Android version. However, recent player base outcry and fan resource website outages protesting perceived privacy threats almost certainly influenced the decision. Wicked Realms acknowledged ongoing concerns regarding the offer wall in general, and their advertising partner IronSource's business practices in particular. Ooh, lawsuit.
I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember we covered a while ago that this company was sort of spun off and bought by a different publisher. I think there was we covered a story that they were this company thought they would be getting like $100 million in revenue or something ridiculous like that. So if this offer wall comes down, that could take a big chunk out of their perceived valuation, especially if the purchase was based kind of on, well, we're going to be able to sell a bunch of data from people. Oh, okay, good.
Interesting, their due diligence then.
Captains, we've been going down memory lane in a series of reviews of old Star Trek games. And just this week, Star Trek Voyager. Okay. And just this week, we have news of a classic. You see, Star Trek Voyager premiered 25 years ago in 1995. And 5 years after that, the series debuted its first video game, Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. Now, 20 years later, a community of Star Trek gamers called The Last Outpost has released the multiplayer platform of Elite Force for free, called Star Trek Elite Force Hollow Match. The game is available for Windows and Linux PCs. In a tweet posted July 9th from The Last Outpost, they had this to say, quote, 2020 is a milestone year. The Last Outpost is 10 years old today. Raven Software celebrated 30 years, and Star Trek Voyager Elite Force turns 20 this September. 8 years ago, Raven and Viacom CBS graciously... 8 years ago, Raven and Viacom CBS 8 years ago, Raven and Viacom CBS graciously gave us permission to distribute the game's code and assets. We, at The Last Outpost, are eternally grateful to Raven and Viacom CBS for their generosity. In honor of our 10th anniversary, we pass this gift along to the thousands of Star Trek fans who grew up playing this game and loving it as much as we do. End quote. Due to an unforeseen inventory mess up, we're passing along the savings to you.
I can't inflatable arm tube man.
Route 10 on Wikipedia.
A link to the download and to The Last Outpost's website can be found in our show notes.
This is kind of huge. I mean, this is someone giving away IP. This is
with express written consent.
Yeah, that's
well. Also remember
kind of
that it's not the full game; it's only the matches. So we can all get in game and shoot at each other, but you can't play the mission.
Yeah. Still, I mean, still iconic, trademarked intellectual property. I mean, it's kind of rare.
CBS was a different company 10 years ago.
It truly.
Yeah.
That's for sure. This is coming out. Let's for context. Let's warp that back a little bit. 2009 is when JJ just released his movie, and so there's some, activity about that. But there's a lot of controversy over the fact that CBS was not going to erase 50 years of history just so JJ could have his, toy monopoly that he wanted. So this is kind of, I mean, I see this as part of that strategy. Like, no, that's okay. You do your Kelvin movies over here. We're going to go ahead and make sure that people still like the old properties. And if we can get people excited about this old game with the prime timeline stuff, we're just going to get that out there. So have at it. Have at it, fans. Go for it. It's also kind of the classic time of fan production films, continues, and New Voyages, and there's a bunch of other fan films with the TNG stuff. So kind of this is part of that era, a bygone era. Will never come again, but still, it's interesting.
I still have the discs. I bought that game twice. I bought it once when it first came out, and then I bought the expanded edition that came with a bonus disc where you could tour the Voyager in free roam mode. It was great.
Yeah, and lest we forget that not long ago somebody made a 2-scale VR walkthrough of the next generation Enterprise D, and that got
canned.
A season
taken down with extreme prejudice.
Yeah, I can see that.
They pivoted to do the Orville.
Right. Yeah, that's the great part of that. And Seth MacFarlane's like, thanks, guys. That's amazing. You guys are great. Yes,
your loss, our gain.
Right. Well, Captains, be sure to follow us on all of our social media channels, because along with this series of retro games, I've been going online and streaming my experiences playing these older Star Trek games that I never got around to playing in the 90s and early 2000s. So that's a fun adventure. But speaking of retro games, it is vast and varied, and we do want to spotlight previously released Star Trek games. Now, whether it's to celebrate a classic or make a new introduction, we are slingshotting around the sun for our new segment, Retro Trek. Now, here's Anthony with a game that teaches you the best about Starfleet Academy. I'm going to play that audio. Let's take a listen to Anthony.
The ultimate goal of any Star Trek fan is to inhabit the world of Gene Roddenberry's creation. Over the years, there have been very few experiences that have come close to that achievement. Star Trek Starfleet Academy, released for PC from Interplay Games in 1997, is the first in a short list of games that fulfills that dream. Players take on the role of a Starfleet cadet in command school, working their way through simulated missions while also leading their cadet crew. Guided by the legendary James T. Kirk and newly promoted Captain Hikaru Sulu, Starfleet Academy puts you right in the middle of a fully realized and produced Star Trek movie. The game is set after Star Trek V and roughly 2 years before the events of Star Trek VI, and uses full-motion video graphics, where live actors are filmed in front of green screens and then inserted into the video game surroundings. This technology was fairly new at the time, but Starfleet Academy makes great use of it. The production quality for the time is outstanding. Unfortunately, it's a stark contrast to the gameplay. When you get into the simulator, things get a little overwhelming. There are 2 tutorial missions that get you started, but if you don't read the full manual beforehand, you can get in trouble pretty quick. To start, the game works best when played with a joystick, or as I like to call it, my Riker stick, which makes it feel more like a space flight simulator than a bridge simulator. However, the view from the captain's chair is pretty cool. You see your helm and weapons officers between you and the view screen in full motion video, which adds to the realism. You can scroll left or right to view other stations and officer positions. You can even interact with them to manage ship systems or access the library computer. Now, this isn't a new mechanism in Star Trek games. Star Trek The Next Generation Futures Past for the Super Nintendo had a similar mechanic. Starfleet Academy doesn't just rely on this interaction for starship control. There is a library of hotkeys for all operations, and if you're not a fan of the bridge view screen, you can switch to a full space view. In my opinion, this only breaks the immersion more and helps to support the dogfighting space shooter theme. The bridge simulator missions are fun, and they're sandwiched between some really heartfelt, interactive cutscenes. Getting briefings from James Kirk and getting to know your fellow bridge crew members really help this gem stand out from the inadequate Trek games widely available. It is certainly worth the time to devote to this classic, but you will have to invest the time. The game itself will take at least 7 to 8 hours to complete, and a few more if you include the check-off expansion missions, but that doesn't factor in the setup time. I downloaded the game from Steam, but there were several issues. The joystick calibration didn't work. My install also seemed buggy in general. After watching some walkthrough videos, I noticed that some of my missions would give me incorrect instructions or would crash right before I completed the mission, causing me to have to redo the mission because my score was inadequate. My graphics also didn't seem to be as good as they could be. After talking with some Priority 1 Armada members, they recommended running the game in a virtual OS, giving it the best opportunity to look and feel like it was running on a native system. In the end, I found the game itself to be a charming, nostalgic addition to live-action canon. At least, I'm going to include it anyway. However, the frustration with glitches, controls, and lack of clear directions within the game spoiled the fun to the point of not being able to stick with it. I'll probably try it again when I have the time to invest in a virtual OS attempt. The game is often discounted on Steam and goodoldgames.com, but you've been warned. If you do try to play Star Trek Starfleet Academy, it may be a no-win scenario. The ultimate goal of any Star Trek fan is to inhabit...
Whoops. That's what happens when I have VLC just do loop. All right. A big shout out to Anthony for taking us along on this journey to the past with retro Star Trek games. Now, if you follow us on our social media channels like twitch.tv and Facebook and Twitter, you may have noticed that I went live twice with this game to experience it, to play it for myself. I did not play it back in 1997. I don't think I even... No, I think I had a... Did I have a computer back then? I don't even know if I had a computer yet in 1997. But I will say this. It was a fun little experience. It is amazing how dependent you had to be on the manual for games back in 1997.
Well, what are you talking about? He explained every control you had to hit in like a brief 30-second. Oh, this button does this, and this button does this, and this button does this.
Who, Anthony? I'm pretty sure that
No, the guy.
The guy in the
briefer.
the admiral.
Yes,
briefing
in a
guy.
VO.
So that in and of itself is part of the problem with the game, is that there's no progressive learning of the
different
keys
time.
and the interactions. It was all like, here's everything, memorize it, or you're going to have a really crappy time with the game. And make sure that you have the manual next to you, because you're definitely going to have to reference this time and time again.
Yeah, definitely. And the games back then did come with actual manuals, so you could leave it open. The keyboard layout, keyboard binding layout was could be right next to you where you could refer to it all the time. It took me about 10 minutes to figure out how to steer the ship because I had numlock on, and I needed to turn numlock off, or vice versa. I can't remember.
So you tried to play this last week since we told you that we were going to be reviewing it?
Yep, I played it on Friday or Saturday, and I didn't play a lot. I put in about an hour. I made it through the initial tutorial mission, basically, and then I couldn't do it anymore. It just does not hold up very well. The story is great, and I love what they did, but in terms of like what my eyes can tolerate on a 4K monitor,
Right,
I
right.
couldn't do it.
I had to jump through significant hoops in order to be able to stream the game productively. I had to install it on a VM so that I can have it in windowed mode, because games like that are ported over for something like Windows 7, even if you go into compatibility mode and try to force it to the original resolution, it just won't do it. It won't do this game, at least this game, won't allow you to do it. So I jumped through a lot of hoops. And then on top of that, I tried to set up my joystick to be mapped to the game, and that took another hour. So overall, I think I gave this game...
Did you get it to work, the joystick?
I did get it to work. I got it to work.
I could not. I tried too.
All right, we'll talk about it after, but it took quite a bit of time for me to jerry rig a setup to play the game and enjoy it. Once I got the joystick up and running, which was by the time I did the second stream, I had a much better experience. Nevertheless, a big shout out to Gray, to Ray Borg. Somebody else was in the chat with me too while I was playing it a few days ago, who helped a lot. Ray gave me a link to a PDF version of the manual. Now, don't let this discourage you, my friends. It's on sale virtually all the time as part of a bundle. Take advantage of it and go down memory lane and try to play these games. Something like Starfleet Academy. It's fun. Even if you just give it like 2 or 3 hours, whatever. The bundle costs $10. That puts the game at like $2. Even if you just give it 2 or 3 hours, it's fun to see what games were like in 97, and B, what Star Trek games were like in 1997.
I'm really sorry, Elio. I went to my games manual box, and I couldn't find my manual for Starfleet Academy. I remember it vividly. It was a blue book, but I did find all my Starfleet command manuals. So when you want to play that, just ask. And I will snap a picture. I'll send you a photo of whatever you need to know. I have it here with you. I'll walk you through it. It's okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Got them all right here.
So up next, I think we're definitely going to be doing Elite Force Hollow match. So be on the lookout and make sure you're following us on. So be on the lookout. Make sure you're following us on social media. We're going to get a team together. I'm going to reach out to our internal team as well as our patrons at first to try to get a Elite Force Hollow match session in before next week's show, or at least before Tony does his review on Retro Trek.
That'll be fun. And also micro photon torpedo launcher for the win.
Kat, do you mind sweeping us out?
That's all we have to cover this week in Star Trek gaming. Now let's open hailing frequencies and see what's incoming.
Cool. Everybody hit stop. And save. Yeah, whatever's in at the very least, AJ, whatever's in that bundle, we're going to be doing. So if you want to play along and participate, I'm going to throw the link in the chat here. But also, if you Google Steam Star Trek bundle, this will pop up. It's Interplay's Star Trek Classic Collection. It was on sale. It was... Oh, no, it is 30%. Wait. Where's...
For the record, it includes Star Trek Starfleet Academy, Star Trek Starfleet Command Gold Edition, Star Trek Judgment Rights, and Star Trek 25th Anniversary. Those are the 4 that are included in that bundle.
Yep. And it's 30% off. You can get it for $12. $12.
Oh,
okay.
Halo 3 is out today, by the way, Elliot.
Oh, snap. I know what I'm doing after this. Skiffy, you and I are excused from after hours. We're going to go play Halo.
Don't worry, I'll take care. I can do after hours for you. Me and Rob will help do it. Me and Rob and Thomas and Kat we'll put it together.
Okay,
that needs to be converted to VR.
No way, man. Starfleet Academy needs to be converted into VR.
Yeah, they'll get right on that. It's 640 by 480 glory.
Yes.
It'll look like the graphics in the Virtual Boy. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Vectored lines. 640
right.
by 480.
I'm ready.
Any graphics card could do that in VR.
You guys ready for feedback?
Intel Iris, no
Yes.
problem.
All right, I'm gonna hit the big red button for
Just need
feedback.
to have a barf bag attached to the bottom of your VR mask.
Just hooked on over the years,
Yeah, just hooked on over the years. Yeah, just
like a feeder for a horse.
feed
like
bag?
a horse
Yeah.
for a feed
Yeah.
bag. All right, I'm gonna hit the big red button.
Yeah, I know
in
we're gross. I'm sorry.
and
I'm sorry.
3,
You'll get it.
2, 1. This is Elio Feedback Sync 1.
This is
Did
Kat.
you say feed bag sync 1?
I don't know. I might have.
Stop with my eye visions. Ugh. This is Kat Feedback Sync 2.
This is Tony finding Kat some eye bleach. Sync 3.
This is Skiffy feedback sync 4. Hey, Elijah, Elio, check
What?
waiting room.
Who's in waiting? Oh, okay. No, he doesn't. You know, so Dr. Hurt is joining us for. Anyway, feedback in 3, 2. Well, Captains, hailing frequencies are now open, and we're ready to receive all of your incoming messages.
Last week, our community question was nothing. We didn't ask one. But when the Star Trek Lower Decks trailer debuted, we wanted to know what you thought of it.
From Twitter, Rebecca Skipper said, I can't wait to see Lower Decks, and it reminds me some of the comedy in the Orville. I need optimism, Captain, optimism. Live long and prosper, Lower Decks, and all involved.
Also on Twitter, The Bay Bandit writes, hilarious. I can't wait.
And lastly, from Twitter, Jack C. writes in and says, And lastly, from Twitter, Jack C just posted an appropriate GIF of Morty saying, "You son of a bitch, I'm in."
I said this when we were not recording, but we'd better get a Rick and Morty crossover into Lower Decks. I'm not talking about a full episode of an adventure with Rick and Morty. I'm not saying it, just a cameo. I would just be happy if Rick's ship bumps into the Cerritos and he says one or two words.
Cerritos.
Whatever. I would just be happy with that. And you know what else would make me happy? Is if the Cation doctor to Anna was actually Squanchy's distant cousin. And we don't talk about Squanchy because Squanchy's like the cousin we don't talk about.
It's not squanchy enough. No, but I know what they're gonna do. I know what they have to do. The episode where they get John Delancey in as Q, Rick pops in and they're like, oh God, we can't be here. We can't be here, Morty. We can't. No, that guy. We can't be here. We gotta get out of here. That guy's after me. We gotta get out of here. I've got a bad thing.
Yes,
it's a bad
that'd
thing.
be good.
See ya, Queer Tribble. Thanks for joining us.
See ya, Gray.
That would be so funny. But anyway, on Facebook, Nick Stinson replied, "I hate it, yet love it at the same time. Also, mixed feelings on the ship."
I have only one feeling on the ship. Redesign it. They need to crash that thing into a planet, and they need to have the Cerritos A that doesn't look like that.
Well, the top part's fine. It's the pylons.
Oh, the bottom part.
themselves.
Yeah,
it's the
they need a
pylons
refit.
themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody hit stop.
Yes, Cerritos, Auto Square.
Is that a song?
And I totally.
That's a jingle from
Something else.
If you're from the West Coast, if you're from the LA area, you know it.
That may be my favorite feedback segment ever because I did a Morty and a Rick impersonation.
These were excellent.
I got both of them in there. That may be my favorite feedback segment ever. I wish I could make a poster of that feedback segment. Stick it on my wall.
All right, you guys ready?
Ready.
Hit the big red button for closing.
Wait. Can't hold on.
Hold on. Like, oh wait, shit.
He's used to me being the slowest.
Sorry, well. Do you want this thing uploaded or not?
I do.
Oh, do you want a community question or not?
Oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Community question 404 not found.
Okay. You could ask if you're gonna.
I got it. I got one.
Oh, never mind.
Wait.
So this is the part Elio types again, and where I decide just after the nick of time to make good radio, because he's almost done. Because he's almost done.
Add Q.
Just about.
All right, done.
Lie.
I'm gonna hit the big red button for closing in 3, 2, 1. This is Elio closing sync 1.
This is Cat closing sync 2.
This is Tony closing sync 3.
This is Skiffy closing sync 4.
Closing in 3, 2. Well, that wraps up episode 469 of Priority One, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. But there are more great shows available to you on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. Just visit podcasts.roddenberry.com for a complete list. Then be sure to troll Anthony James Cox, who is currently being a dick in the chat. Just visit podcasts.com / oh geez, what the hell am I reading? Just visit podcasts.roddenberry.com for a complete list. Then be sure to subscribe to them all and share them with your friends.
But we can't forget to send a special thanks to some of our Patreon supporters like David K. Rutley and Peter Archibald.
And here's a community question for this week. Now that we have a sense of what type of show Lower Decks might be, What defines Star Trek for you?
Captains, it's important to us. Captains, it's important to us that you get your voice heard and that you participate in the conversation. Leave us a comment on our website at PriorityOnePodcast.com, on our Facebook page at Facebook.com/PriorityOnePodcast, or find us on Twitter and Instagram at PriorityOnePod.
Anthony, at least I didn't call you a shithead.
I guess that's
gonna.
wow.
You know what?
That's
I said
touching.
it.
That gets me right
I
here.
said that. I said it, and then the moment I said it, I was like, that's gonna come back and bite me.
It will.
Well, and if you're still craving more, be sure to spend time with Winters, Anthony, me, plus the rest of the Priority One Armada. Saturday nights, the Armada broadcasts live to review the latest news from Star Trek Online and the Armada community, including spotlighting some of our amazing members. With regular giveaways, there's something for all players, whether you're new or a veteran. Follow us on all our social media accounts for broadcast times, and if you'd like to join the Armada, visit PriorityOneArmada.com.
This episode of Priority One is brought to you by our patrons via Patreon.com. Find out more and add your support at Patreon.com/Priority One. And even if you cannot make a financial contribution, please spread the word about our show. Invite your fellow Trekkies to get their weekly roundup of news right here on Priority One. It's your support that keeps us going.
Don't forget to tune in to Priority One Productions' Guard Frequency podcast at guardfrequency.com. Each episode, the Guard will take you inside the universe of your favorite space sims, including a tabletop adventure played out by your hosts. And Heroes Rise brings you up to date with the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Learn all about the latest publications, tools, tips, tricks, and traps in less time than it takes to skin a wyvern. Head over to heroesrisepodcast.com to discover their secrets.
Thanks to our audio editors, including Gray, William, Brandon, Rand, Daniel, Roscoe, and Skiffy. Thanks to our producer, Jake Morgan, and associate producer, Shane Hoover, with support from Thomas of the Priority One Armada. Together, they help organize and write up our weekly summary of the weekly summary of news from the Star Trek Multiverse. A special thanks to our social media manager and guest contributor for Retro Trek, Anthony Cox. Thanks to our graphic artist, Henry Pomper, with support from Jason Smith of the Priority One Armada. Thanks to the composer of our theme music, Chris Watts. But, most importantly, a big thanks to you, the Star Trek community, our listeners. Because without your ongoing support, none of this would be possible. Except for you shitheads out there. Everybody had stopped.
Or is it just the one?
No, I got a lot of shithead remarks from people after that editorial, man. A lot of people comfortable behind those keyboards.
See, I never have the Twitch chat up, but I put the Twitch chat on so I can kind of hear what Anthony was saying on the Starfleet Academy thing. But then I see Cookie in the chat there says she can hear the Guard Frequency music in her head right now. I recently dug up, for unrelated reasons, the goat frequency thing that she helped do on one April Fool's a long time ago. So that just happened today. So I can hear the goat frequency music in my head. Cookie. There's the trip on the way back machine for you.
All I hear is the A team done in kazoos.
That was a good one. That's a good one too.
All right, Captains. Well, that wraps it up for this week on Priority One, episode 469. Just remember, you guys are not the shitheads. You're not. You
An inspired closing.
You are the Star Trek community that we do this show for, and for that I am very grateful for your ongoing support and for joining us each and every week here on Priority One. If you see a shithead on any social media platform being a racist or bigot, call them out. Call them out on their nonsense. And if you're playing a game, be sure to report them to a GM or report them to whatever ticketing and hit them up on social media, take a picture of their avatar and blast them on social media. Look, the problem is that these people feel emboldened. They shouldn't be. So it's up to us to do our part. But be safe about it. Be safe about it.
But be safe. Okay.
I'm not telling you to go out and punch somebody who's not wearing a mask. I'm not saying any of them.
I'm surrounded by assholes.
So thank you all for joining us on this episode. It's great to see so many familiar faces in the chat. Tony, you missed the play of Retro Trek. Too bad, but you'll have to hear it on Friday's show.
He heard it. He did it. He knows what it sounds like.
That's true. He does know what it sounds like. So anyway, thank you all so very much. By the way, actually, before we go, this week is Virtual TrekCon going on, and Lawrence of Geek Life Rules is doing another cosplay cabaret for the event, and I am planning on recording. If everything goes according to plan, I'll be recording at the very least Stars, the con rendition of Stars, and that's happening on Friday night via Virtual TrekCon. Actually, Anne Marie was in the chat a few moments ago, who is part of that. Let me get the link for you guys. Virtual TrekCon. It's actual virtualtrekcon.com. So be on the lookout for that. I'll be singing something, I think. I hope. And yeah, that's happening Friday night at 9, I think, Lawrence. It's happening 9 p.m. Eastern. There's a calendar of events. Be sure to follow it. Check it out. They've got a lot of good panels lined up with a lot of special guests. That's happening 9 p.m. Eastern. So I'll be participating in that in some way, shape, or form. So thank you, Lawrence, for letting me be a part of it. Anyway, captains, until next week, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Command codes verified. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.